Siyabulisa bafundi baka matriculation grade 12 ama exams asese eduze kakhulu. Counting from today is 40 days left before ama exams. So namhlanje sizokwenza isifundo se-accounting, sibheke kwi-topic ye-auditing, ukucwaninga kwamabhuku lokuthiwa i-auditing ngolimi lwase-emzini. Sizobheka laphana bayithanda ukuthi bayibuze le question, mhlawumbe izoba 20 marks noma izoba 15 marks question ye-auditing on paper 1. If uyakhumbula last year, njengoba nje siqale last year kuba na more than one question paper in accounting. It was the last question 4. So ngizocebisa nje izinto ofuneke uzazi lapha ukuthi iziphi, right? So firstly, as define igama elithi auditing, ukuthi ichaza ukuthini. Auditing means to listen. It's taken from a Greek word which means to listen, right? Auditing means audio, which means to listen, right? Means audio, which means to listen. Right, so which means if you are an auditor, you must listen. Remember, you are doing an auditing, you are an auditor, right? An auditor, it's a person who is qualified to do an audit and is doing an audit. Sometimes tota akahambi yedwa, uhamba nethimba lakhe, okuthiwa is an audit committee, right? Let me just write it down. An audit committee, it's a group of people who are having an assignment that is an auditing to do, right? That is audit committee. Audit committee, more than one auditors. More than one auditors doing auditing. Right, that is basically an audit committee. That there are 4 types of auditors. So I mean there are 4 types of opinion, not the of auditors, so of opinion. Or maybe let's start with the auditors before we go to an opinion. Let's start with 4 types of auditors. Or okay, no, there are many, not good, there are 4, but at high school we just focus on the 2, but I'm going to give you a few, right? Because it's not a crime to know those ones, right? So types of auditors. Types of auditors. Types of auditors. So number 1, we have qualified audit. Not qualified, sorry. We have internal auditor. That is number 1. Internal auditor, it's an employee of the business. His main aim is to fulfill the needs of the management. So which means his duty is to detect and prevent a fraud. It is an internal auditor, right? It's an employee of the business. Okay, employee of the business. Employee of the business, right, is entitled to the wages and salary. So he's getting, he or she is getting the wages and salary, right? It's not getting a audit fee, no, because it's one of us, right? So that is the first audit, and therefore let me go to the responsibility of the internal auditor, right? He is responsible to detect and prevent fraud. Right? Ufuneka a detect and a prevent a fraud. okunye futhi ofuna akwenze is to save or to fulfill the needs of the management, to save or fulfill the needs of the management. Right, fulfill the needs of the management. So that's a duty of the internal auditor, right? Internal auditor, it's one of us. It's an employee of the business, right? His main aim is to detect and prevent fraud, or to save or fulfill the needs of the management, right? And therefore we have the external auditor. Number 2, we have external. We call it external or independent. Independent auditor. Independent auditor, right? This one, is not one of us. It normally comes once or twice a year, right? He's speaking on behalf of the third party. Third party, it's the shareholders, right? Remember, we said we have the internal. Internally, it's one of our employees who's making sure that all amabhuku are right to detect and prevent fraud, saving the needs of the management. This one is speaking on behalf of the shareholders. Whatever that he does, yonke into akayenzayo uyenzela ama-shareholder. Kufana nama-officials we-department uma ngabe fika esikoleni azo-checkela ukuthi they are speaking on behalf of the parents who are the owners of the school if it's a public school, right? So the external auditor, right? They are speaking on behalf of the third party of the shareholders, right? Whatever they do on behalf of the shareholders. So speaking right. Their duty is to express an opinion without fear or favor. Express an opinion without fear or favor. Without fear or favor. So their duty is to express an opinion without fear or favor. Bangasatshiswa benza umsebenzi wabo bese bayahamba. They normally comes once or twice a year, right? I'll write it down. Normally they visit in our site on our business once or twice a year or quarterly. Normally they come once or twice a year. Right. Normally comes once or twice a year. And then we have other types of auditors that we call it forensic auditors. Forensic. Right. Forensic auditors. Okay, number 3 now is forensic auditor. Forensic auditors are auditors that their main aim is they're dealing with crime. They're dealing with syndicate of crime, like SIU, Scorpion. We see they always change name in South Africa. There's Scorpion, there's SIU, there's Hawks. You see, but they're dealing with crime, organized crime. So these ones are dealing with organized crime. Okay, being obhleliwe. For instance, It's not fair if uthatha amaphoyisa uthi awaya investigator mhlawumbe ngezinto ezenzeka ka-ABSA noma ezenzeka JSE noma ezenzeka ka-SARS, but we need someone maybe who used to work at SARS or who having an accounting background or an IT background or a legal background, you see, or yeah, those are the kind of auditors that we are talking about if we talk about the forensic. And then quickly, then we go to the auditors for special purpose. Okay, auditors for government, sorry. Auditors for government. Auditors for government. These are our Office of the Auditor General. Auditors for government. Right. There are about 3 or 4 levels of the government. There's national government, provincial government, local government. Sometimes you can also have, like in Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Nagomangawong and PE, those are the metro municipalities, right? So those are the levels. So these auditors, they do audit from the national government, provincially, locally, as well as metro municipalities. So that is the auditors for government. They are dealing with all the phases of the government on those levels, right? So this one, they deal with audit, dealing with audit, dealing with audit from national, provincial, local, and metro municipalities. Metro and metro municipalities, right? Other people that are saying it's not a municipality, they are saying it's municipality, whatever we can call it, whether municipality or municipality, it's one and the same, right? And then the last one, the fifth one, it's auditors for special purpose. Okay, these are auditors for special purposes or purpose. Auditors for special purpose. Auditors for special purpose. Auditors for special purpose. Maybe let's say kune problem kwa health noma ku aviation, cannot take amaphoyisa to go investigate ama-pilot and nama airline hostess and so on. You need someone oke wasebenza khona on experience. Normally they take a retired judge, maybe if it's a legal opinion or something that need legal opinion. Noma mhlambe umuntu osawaba i-pilot, they check everything. For instance, I can make an example with the auditors for special purposes. I can make an example in a life asset domain. I think we all know about life asset domain, where people with challenges in Gauteng, they were left neglected, vulnerable, and then kwa investigator. And someone who was leading in that investigation, it's a former KwaZulu-Natal Vice Chancellor, Professor Makgoba. Professor Makgoba, by qualification, is a medical doctor. So they chose a right person to investigate because it's a health issue. So we ask ngama health issues. And then why is our patama findings, okanye izinto akayithola wafike wayipresenta kwiscopa eParliament ukuthi uthole ABCD. So ba choose umuntu right. So that is basically one of the good example of auditors for special purposes. So athola ukuthi lapha abantu, they were staying there, abantu abane challenge, bengadlile, benganakiwe, bengagezile, babulawa indlala abanye, and so on and so forth. So umuntu owaziyo ngama health issues, because i profession yakhe is udokotela, njengoba sengishilo, right? So that, I mean, those are auditors for special purpose. Or maybe kune problem kwa aviation, kuma balloon. They must choose umuntu mhlambe who's already been there before ongasekho ozoba neutral. Very important. One of the duty of the external auditor, remember we did talk about the external auditor, is to be neutral, right? This one, an external auditor, right, must not be biased, right? So not be biased. Funeka no refly, angabikho bias, angathathi icala, abe neutral, right? Must not be biased. Okay, funeka it must be neutral. Must be neutral, not be biased. So same thing even here. Those are the basically auditors for special purposes or purpose. Okay, it depends again if profession akakuyona lo. Okay, mhlawumbe uma ufuna uku-investigate mhlawumbe ngaba mhlawumbe ngento eyenzeke ema-truckini umuntu mhlawumbe osakaba u-driver owaziyo what's going on with that carrier of ama-logistics and so on. And then, but in high school, sifocus kakhulu kwi-internal as well as the external, right? That's why we pay more attention. But equation ungayithola because it seems like we are being surprised each and every time. That's why ngikufundisa nje kanje, right? We have internal auditor as well as the external. Equation bangayibuza even nakhona la ko forensic, baphinde bakubuze la auditors for special purpose, auditors for the government. So at least ungabikho shocked, right? But now we're going to pay more attention on internally as well as the external auditor, right? These auditors again, uma sebefikile, they must do audit, right? Once sebenzile audit, remember audit is just sort of a questionnaire. Mhlambe nangu umuntu uyafika esikoleni sakho afike abuze mhlambe ama question for security or mhlambe more than one security mhlambe depending on the size of your school, or antu abaklinayo, right? Go to the front office, the ladies there who are working in the front office for admin, or maybe gentlemen if it happens, gentlemen as well. And then they go to the SMT, the management of the school, they go to the teachers, they go to the learners. And then at the end of the day, they must issue, right? They must express, I'm talking about the external auditors, right? They must express what? An opinion, right? So there are 4 types of opinion, but at high school level, we are dealing with only 3. So I'm going to focus on that 3. I'm not going to give you, okay, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to write it down of the 4th one. So the first opinion, right? Opinion or audit report. We call it opinion or audit report. It's an opinion or audit report. Number 1, we call it qualified report. Qualified report. Qualified report. What kind of a report? It's a qualified report. Right? Let's explain what is a qualified report. We're saying a qualified report issued by an auditor when the auditor encounter one or more areas of financial statement that do not comply with ICAP. Right? So basically, when the auditor is issued, when the auditor encounter one or more areas of financial statement of the financial that do not that do not comply with IGAAP, General Accepted Accounting Practice or Principle, or IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. So, qualified report, report le, so which means the audit is not clean. Kunama areas except except okay, like yonke sayibona right except one or two things. As we see here, when the auditor encounter one or more areas of financial statements that do not qualify with IGAAP. Remember IGAAP is South Africa. IGAAP. And after International Financial Reporting Standard ila accounting yomhlaba noma auditing yomhlaba noma tax kufuneke bumatch kufane nakhona ngizochaza mhlawumbe later after this topic. So this is the first opinion or audit report, the qualified report. And then unqualified report. Right, unqualified report, it's a right report. It's like an opposite. This one is a right report. It's a clean report. It's a clean report here, right? This report is a clean one. Please don't go with unqualified or qualified. No, the qualified one is when the auditor encounter one or more areas of financial statement that do not comply with IGAAP or comply with IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards. And then unqualified, right? The unqualified one, when the financial statements represent fail in all material respect. When the financial statements, when financial statements are failing in all material respect. Maybe everything is in line with EIFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard, as well as the Companies Act of South Africa, right? All financial respect. Yeah. Okay. When the financial statements are fairly presented. Okay. Presented. When financial statements fairly presented in all material respect, no mention of irregularity. So it's a clean audit, as we said. We said it's a clean audit, right? So no mention of irregularity. Right, in line with EI, okay, or in accordance, in line with EIFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards, and Companies Act of South Africa. Companies Act of South Africa. Okay, so that is basically unqualified. So that is number 2. Then number 3, we have a disclaimer. Remember, stay out 3 audit report or opinion. Yoqala qualified report. There was a Shili qualified report. It's a report when the auditor encounter one or more areas of financial statements. So which means if there's a gray area, okay, So it's not clean because in the gray area, there's something questionable. And therefore, the unqualified, it's a clean report. When financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect, no mention of irregularity, in line with IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards, and the Companies Act of South Africa. And then see with disclaimer report or opinion. Okay, what kind of disclaimer report? Remember, we call it's a report or opinion. It disclaimer occurs whereby the auditors refuse to issue the report, right? Let me just explain it. Right, a disclaimer: when the auditors could not complete the work due to various reasons, right? When the auditor could not complete the report or the work done. The work done. The work due to when the auditors could not complete the work. Due to various reasons. Due to various reasons. Kunezathu ezikhona ebenza ukuthi reasons bangawuqedi. When the auditor could not complete the work due to various reasons, or maybe we can say the auditor is refusing. Mhlambe bayafika bazochecka ukuthi esikoleni teaching and learning does take place or not. Afika ama officials mhlambe bafika bhale i-report maybe let's say kuthiwa injani i-qualified, so which means ku-right khona kodwa mhlambe isikole asingeni ngesikhathi noma mhlambe izingane eziningi kakhulu ngaphandle kuyafundiswa, so which means kunama gray areas, so that report it's qualified report. Or kube khona le kuthiwa it's an unqualified, ukuthi ama officials ayafika aba shocked the way isikole siranwa ngakhona, so athola into akade engayi-expectanga, so which means everything is in line with into akade bezoyi-check, right? So there's clean, there's no mention of irregularity, there's nothing, right? So everything is in line with International Financial Reporting Standard and the Companies Act. And then it disclaimer, right? It disclaimer whereby the auditors refuse. Okay, I can even write that one, right? When the auditors refuse to issue the audit report, when the audit report, they are refusing ukuthi khona izinto ezikhona, but hayi no ngesikwazi ukubhala la, awazi noma kusesikoleni la noma ku West Street abantu bayehla bayanyuka nje la, insimba ekhali ibheli, it's chaos. So they are refusing, they are saying no, this thing is beyond us, so it needs now in forensic. Remember I did talk about the forensic, right? Forensic investigation. So but no, there's a lot of problems here, there's nothing that you can do, right? So that is basically it, disclaim. And then base bakhona i-advice ke akusiyona yase high school, but ngayilista nje mhlawumbe ngisho something ngoba these people, they always come with surprise, ama examiners. So we have advice report, right? issued by the auditor when the financial statements do not comply with the gap. Okay, advice. They do not comply with the gap. But don't worry, we don't do advice. It's only the first, the unqualified, qualified, and as well as the disclaimer. Right. That is basically auditing. Isn't often us. And then let me go and explain in the international financial reporting standards. So it's like I wanna FIFA. I want FIFA ibola ne. FIFA yona yongamele ibola lomhlaba. So we have something like we have FIFA. IFRS is like FIFA. Yona accounting, I mean worldwide, supposed to be the same. That is IFRS. Iyafana ne FIFA. So if FIFA iyona elapha international, and therefore kube khona ini isafa in South Africa, sine safa, that is in RSA, right? RSA, we have safa. If you can go to countries like go Zimbabwe, ezim unobani unezifa, yeah, right? You go to Swaziland corner, Oswafu, right? Swafu, that is in Swaziland. All these people, or like all these countries, the way they play football is just only one slogan. It's a fair play. Before ibhola qale khona abafana abangena abaphethe iflag about 4. Islogan sakhona is very simple. Fair play. Right, fair play. So that's the slogan say FIFA. Right, whatever game or match yebhola elikhokhelwayo, it must be in line with ama regulations we FIFA. Same applies nala when it come to international financial reporting standard. We accounting here now. Remember, sine RSA here South Africa. Tina sine gap, gap eyethu. General accounting, general accepted accounting principle. It's our own, the way we do accounting here. Maybe we can go to Australia, for instance. Australia, they've got their own way of doing accounting. You go to USA, you go to Britain, you go to all other countries. But all of us, accounting here must be in line with what? IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards. It has to be the same, right? The standard, it has to be the same, right? I think I did explain that. And then you can get a question equation, who are the owners of the business, right? In auditing, who are the owners of the business? So the shareholders, right? So now we'll go to the questions now. Questions. What are the questions that you can come across, right? Shareholders are the owners of the business. Shareholders are owners of the business. Right, shareholders are the owners of the business. Why? Remember that the ones who bought the shares in business. But they like normally uthi abanasi scale mhlawumbe sokurana ibhizinisi, and then there's something called okuthiwa i-AGM, annual general meeting, where they elect ama external auditors azokwenza i-auditor for that year. They will elect leadership ezobaphatha. So there are people who are running business 24/7 okuthiwa yini ama directors. Right, directors are the ones who are running the business. Right, they are being appointed at the AGM. So directors are the one managing the business. Not good bank owners, they are managing the business. Right, they're the ones who are managing the business. Anything wrong, you can get also a question that say, who is responsible to ensure that statements are prepared. Okay, let's put that question. Who is responsible to ensure that financial statements are prepared? Right, who is responsible to ensure that financial statements are prepared? So number one is directors. Directors are the ones who are responsible. Directors, or we can say directors of the company. Directors of the company. Right. These are the other people. It's like in a school situation. Ngoba ufamily mfundi windaba yesikole. Esikoleni noma ngakuthiwa iprincipal ayazi lutho mhlawumbe ngemaths noma ngephysics noma ngeaccounting. Kodwa uma kukhona into ehamba wrong because uyena oyi manager oyi director yesikole kahle kahle is running the school. Anything that goes wrong uyena ofuna answerishe for kubazali nako department. So it's the same thing. Although noma the work is done by the teacher, but when you come to answering and accountability, we're not to teach. So it's the same thing even now, right? Directors are the ones who must make sure that financial statements are prepared, right? And then bese bakhona a question abayithanda kakhulu ethi, other than the shareholder, who else might have an interest in our business? Yabona ayikho into evele show ukuthi umuntu avela abhale ushareholder kodwa kusho kahle kuthiwa other than the shareholders, who else might have an interest in our business? Explain. Maybe 9 marks. So which means you're going to give, okay, let me write down the question. Other than the shareholder or shareholders, who else might have an interest? Who else might have an interest in our business or in the business, in our business? Right. Ngaphandle kwama shareholders, ubani komunye ongaba ne-interest kwi-business? Chaza. 9 marks. If it's 9 marks, funeka ubhale 3 points and then bese uyachaza. Right. Explain. Right. They can say explain or motivate. You see. Explain. Sometimes they even say harmonize. Right. Explain your answer. Right. So number one. Okay, let me just do this. Okay, number one, it might be, you see, okay, let me just write it here on the clean page and I'll come back on the question. Let's say now it's a business lethu, right? So yubani si Ithala, right? Ithala, it's the name of the business, Ithala. Ithala, right? The number one stakeholder, okay, who are the stakeholders that might have an interest in the business? Ama stakeholder abantu abanentshisekelo, right? So SARS, South African Revenue of Services, is the number one stakeholder, and therefore kube ngama shareholders abazokhuluma ngawo, other than the shareholders, right? Ngama shareholders, ama trade unions, right? Trade unions, right? USARS into esiyibheka koSARS, usazi noma into akayibhekayo kodwa nje ukuthi uyamkhokha usazi noma awumkhokhi. That is basically explanation, tax evasion and tax avoidance. Right. tax evasion and tax avoidance. Remember, to avoid tax, it's a right way of doing things, but to evade tax is legal, right? It is legal, it is a crime to evade tax. So this one is a crime, can go to court or can go to jail, right? It's a crime, it is illegal, right? It's not allowed. Not allowed. It's not allowed. Right. So this one is legally. It's legally this one. Tax avoidance is legally. This one, it tax avoidance. We are paying less tax. This is paying. Paying less tax. Paying less tax. Not good cook, you are just paying less tax. Maybe a particular company it built a school. Remember, one of the duty and responsibility of the government is to actually educate its citizen. Right? So if now konama private companies who want to come in and assist the government, so it's obvious those companies are not going to be taxed like ama companies angenzi lutho, right? But they will be taxed less. That's why sometimes total lapha income statement the companies are being taxed at 28%, 27%, even 25%, or even less, depending on the project that they were doing. Maybe a particular company is plowing back to the community. We call that CSI, corporate social investment, right? Maybe they build a computer lab, or maybe they're sponsoring in terms of sports. Maybe they build tennis court, basketball court. You see, those are work of the private companies. So they are not going to pay like normally. They will pay less. That is tax avoidance. But tax evasion is a crime. You are dodging tax. You don't want to pay tax, and therefore that is tax evasion. So and then trade unions. Trade unions, there are only two things that in the forefront of the trade unions. Trade unions, they are fighting for wages and salaries, that is remuneration, as well as the safety working conditions. Those are the only central point of the trade unions. So we have trade unions for wages and salary, for wages and salaries, as well as safety working condition. Safety working condition. Or we can say, if you don't want to say wages and salaries, we can say remunerations. Right, we can use that term. We can also have investors. Investors, they want to check whether you're making a profit or loss, right? Profit, okay, or loss, right? And then you can also have directors. That are also the stakeholders. Directors, right? Accounting student for research, right? At varsity, accounting students. These are also, they might have they might be interested in our business because they are doing research to conduct that research, right? So basically, we are answering this question. Question 80: other than the shareholder, who else might have an interest in our business, or other than the shareholder, who might have another stakeholder that have an interest in our business? So we said to SARS, right? To SARS for tax evasion and tax avoidance. Right, we are explaining, and then we are saying trade unions, right, for wages and salaries, as well as safety working condition. Investors, profit and loss, whether we are making a profit or we're making a loss, right? Or we might have accounting students as an asset, right, for research purpose, right? Those are some of the things. Or might have also potential investors. Potential investors are investors that are having an interest in our business but are not yet invested. For instance, umzali ka grade 8 around this time, ofike walithatha iform wahamba nalo akakalibuyisi, that parent is no longer be a parent yet, but up until a coke and upfront payment enza yonke into afuneka ayenze, therefore usengumzali wasesikoleni kodwa okwamanje is just a potential parent. And then bese bakhona i-question ke le enye into ofuneka uyazi nge-auditing, ama-auditors don't do i-audit from A to Z, right? They do what? Audit test sampling, right? Auditors do not do audit from they are using the language auditing from correctly to grave, from A to Z, or from correctly to grave. Auditors don't do audit from A to Z. They do what? Audit test sampling. Okay, audit test sampling. Okay, question ongayithola la edinga this thing, uzofuna uthola question ethi at the AGM, that's a question that you can come across. At the AGM, one of the shareholders raised up his or her hand, right, and said, I'm not happy with the way it fairly presented, right, and therefore assist this shareholder who is raising the hand at the AGM and saying, hey, I'm not happy with the way that is being used here. It's written fairly presented. So which means this shareholder does not understand that auditors don't do the audit from A to Z. They are doing what? A test sampling. Auditors enza isampula, not ukuthi if we are saying correct, which means we check it from A to Z, no, we check our script okay from question 1 to the last question, right? But if we enza isampula noma audit test, so uthatha mhlambe, let's say the top one, the middle one, and then from there you express your opinion, either qualified or unqualified or disclaim, as we already said before, right? So that's basically one of the very key important point of the auditors. The auditors don't do audit from A to Z or from correctly to grave. They do an audit test sampling. Very important. Bazokubuza le question le. Enye into ofuneka uyazi ke mfundi quickly, funeka wazi nge-remuneration committee. I-remuneration committee is a committee that decide on the wages and salaries. You must know about that. You must also know about the what else initial lapana. Okay, what does SICA stand for? So, I mean, that is South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. You must also know that one, SICA. You must also know about the internal auditor, as I said before. You can also even know about the audit committee. I did talk about the audit committee. And then lastly, we must also know about the executive and non-executive, right? Executive, let me just read for you quickly. It's the executive director. It's someone who's there on day-to-day basis, and therefore non-executive is someone who normally visits. It's not full-time. A non-executive not involved in a day-to-day management of the company. Right, that is a non-executive. You have to know those terms. What is an executive and non-executive? I said executive involved in a day-to-day management of the company, full-time, and therefore non-executive is not involved in a day-to-day running of the business on the daily basis. Thank you so much again, Fundi. We're auditing.
Ningakhohlwa ukuthi nisengathokozela ezinye izifundo eziyisithupha kanye nezengeziwe i-learner wellness, i-career guidance kanye ne-advanced program. Hlanganyela nathi kwizifundo ezi-online ku-068 151 1072 noma ku-GoDigi@godigitalsa.today. Siyabonga.